going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against... Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15, your AK-47. We're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore. Hell yes, hell yes, hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15. Hell yes, your AK-47. Hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15.
Oh, hell no.
Hell yes, we're not going to allow it to be used against our fellow Americans anymore.
Here I am, and welcome back to the Prepared Mind channel. It is Sunday Night Live at the zoo. I'm here with, well, your favorites. We got Jolene and Ooman back. We're all back. I'm on screen, but Ooman is back, folks, and he has the big blue wrench. If you want to talk, if you want to share in the chat, you've got to be subscribed for at least 30 minutes. You can't just come on here and troll. We played a little game on Friday, letting people come on without any challenges. And yep, the trolls were there, and Ooman just conged them. Kapow! We like to have civilized discussions. No trolls, no turds allowed. You got to come on and use your brain. That's why it's called the Prepared Mind, not the Prepared Mouth. I mean, what is this, the Maury Povich show? Or give me a break, right? Anyways, the big blue wrench. Ooman's not afraid to use it. Neither am I. Neither is Jolene. Neither is anyone else who is a moderator on the Prepared Mind channel. And we've got a great show for you folks, because it's not just entertainment, even though some jackasses think this is just entertainment. This is reality. As real as this candy cane is hanging up behind me. That's right, folks, reality. Candy canes are reality? Really? Well, not really. All right, it is Sunday Night Live. If you've got a question, I mean, you can chit-chat in the comments if you're a subscriber. But if you hit that super chat button right up here, right up there in the corner, super chat button, you can ask a question. We'll get it on the screen. You can talk to thousands of people with your own comments, your questions, your thoughts, right? We've got super chat, we got CashApp, and we got PayPal. As much as we hate PayPal, it's still out there. But PayPal's hurting itself, right? But another thing, it is the Christmas season, and I've got my United States Marine Corps flask out. It is full, and by the end of the show, I'd love for it to be empty. And if you want to take a sip with me, a shot, that'll be a $50 super chat donation if you want to cheer the world. And folks, I decided to bring that back just this week, and it is the Christmas season. It's the holiday season, and I hope you all, like me, have gotten a little bit of beaver this weekend. That's right. The beaver's back in the house also. Hello, Mr. Beaver. I couldn't resist. People are like, oh, my God, John, don't be talking about getting some beaver. Well, I got my beaver here. This is the one that Ooman sent me a couple of years ago, by the way. Just wanted to let you know, Ooman, I still got that thing. Are you out there, Ooman? Do you care to make a guest appearance? Going once, going twice. Oh, he checks in. Hey, how are you, Oliver?
Hey, I had to get through the right window and get that popped up. That's not just any beaver, John. That's an angry beaver.
This is an angry beaver. And, you know, the last thing you want is to wake up next to an angry beaver.
Oh, my God.
I tell you. Anyways, that was, I think, wasn't that a Duluth beaver?
Yeah, that's one of their mascots or something.
One of their mascots, yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yeah, we got a great show, Oliver. Thank you again for standing in and for keeping the peace, as it were.
Oh, glad to do it.
What's that?
Glad to do it.
I'm glad you're there, man. We got Jolene, who rarely, if ever, makes a guest appearance. Anyways, Ooman, we may have you back on later if the craziness gets, when I say crazy, you know what I'm talking about.
Okay.
All right,
I've had
man.
enough of that this weekend, man. I'm just trying to take it easy.
Okay. Special note: if I have to drink, then Uman has to drink.
Oh, John, come on.
Just teasing. Yeah.
The other night I was drinking so much I ended up becoming a lord and buying 5 square feet of land in Scotland, for Christ's sake.
Right. Lord Uman. Is it Lord or High Lord or?
It's Lord Uman. And Jason Walker just asked me if I was going to get a kilt now. And honestly, I hadn't quite thought it through that far yet.
Well, if you're Celtic and you're German, so you are Celtic through your ancestry, there's probably some Celtic colors or some Celtic colors for you.
Yeah, right. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I almost said your last name, but then I went, oh, yeah, we don't share that around here.
No.
If that were to happen, there'd be a lot of people dead in the Uman neighborhood for trying. Anyways, yeah. Let's see. What is that? Oh, all right. Looks like we got some questions lining up there, Oliver. I'll let you go and we'll bring you back if anything. And of course, get your comments and questions on the screen. Kind of a moderator's privilege. And I promise not to use this on you, man. You're good about it. Okay. Let's get into it, folks. It is the Prepared Mind channel. It is Sunday Night Live. This is the zoo where we have YouTube, Subscribestar.com, and the preparedmind.club. That's right. The preparedmind.club is where you can go sign up. $2 a month, and you can be here Monday through Friday asking all the questions you want. But here on Sunday Night Live, it's special. We do the GTFB and SB fun. That's the get the fuck back and stay back. And I've got Darcy T checking in with a $50 super chat donation. And she says this: good evening, John. I'm hearing rumblings that Mike Pence may be a top contender in the 2024 election. Are you hearing any noise around that? Well, Darcy, I'm going to thank you for the awesome donation. Every week you're here. Every week you like to open the show up with a good question, comment, suggestion, blessings, and I enjoy it all. And yes, I have heard that Mike Pence will not go away. Mike Pence, folks, represents the ever so quiet, ever so sneaky, ever so behind the scenes, and working under the desk, as it were, for the deep state. He was there the whole time during the Trump administration. And guess what? He must have been compromised in some way because, right, he sold out. January 6th, he could have done his job, operated in a fully constitutional fashion, and continued the discussion about what had really happened. Kind of like they're doing in Brazil right now over their 2022 Nintendo game. But Mike Pence sold out. But he's still speaking. He's still talking. He still talks, folks, to the Rhino Republicans. He talks to the Rhino Republican press. And he speaks, of course, to the Rhino Republican media and Rhino Republican crowds like, Kevin McCarthy of the U.S. House of Representatives, as well as Mitch the Turd McConnell. The Turtle McConnell, Rhino Senate leader. Wow. They really think that he is a contender. It was interesting. During the elections, we all got this fascinating, absolutely fascinating kind of prophetic, if you will, Mike Pence thing. And it set me back. Remember when he was in that debate and that big giant fucking fly was and it landed on his head and it stayed there. It was like, whoa, that doesn't look good on TV. Lord of the Flies moment much, right? What the hey is going on with that? Yeah. Unbelievable that a big giant fly would land as, it could have been a CGI fly for all we knew, but it was almost like a message. It's like, wait a minute. Is this guy on our side? He did debate very well, but it was like, it left a bad taste in my, philosophical mouth, right? It just did. It just did. Anyways, folks, here we are. And Mike Pence thinks he matters. Now, he could do well, folks, in the usual presidential race if Trump had been a usual presidential candidate. That is to say, someone who is part of the uniparty, the Washington, D.C. sellout crowd. But he wasn't. Trump was something different, right? People that love Trump. People that hate Trump. I'm kind of a we live in exciting times kind of guy with respect to Trump, right? He's still an enigma to me. He's not the greatest Republican ever, but he's certainly not a Washington insider. They hate his guts, which tells me, well, he's going to keep fighting. And look out. I mean, absolutely look out. We're going to have some interesting things happen. We just got through our 2022 election. We just got through Thanksgiving. And last week, within a handful of days, we had two mass shootings by left-wing lunatics, followed by Joe Biden coming out and promising right before the Thanksgiving break that he was going to get rid of, that's right, assault weapons, right? Not assault blue wrenches. This is it's like a nice hefty 10-pound giant iron wrench. That could really put the hurt on someone. Don't break into my house. Anyways, back to Darcy T. Thank you for the great donation, which keeps us here. It's the Get the Fuck Back and Stay Back Fund. And again, if you guys want to get into a little bit of this flask, which I topped off before the show, we can do that. $50 super chat donations, and that keeps us on the air. Now, we're all feeling the pinch, folks. This is really a big deal. We're all feeling the pinch. You, me, everybody. Me, Jolene, Uman, we're all feeling it. And there's even a nice story here about the economy. And boy, did I get a lot of stuff on this economy over the weekend. The Great Reset is upon us, folks. The numbers came back. Now, we haven't had Cyber Monday yet, but we did have Black Friday, which I think started at the beginning of November. But anyways, it's supposed to be the day after. And it came back that the consumer economy has essentially just jumped off the cliff with a faulty parachute. The quote coming back called it's a ghost town. This is scary stuff. So I know money's tight out there, and we just topped 300 people live, by the way. Get that internet address up top, share it with people around the world so we can get up over 500. Every week I want to be over 500 people live. Of course, I'd love to be over 1,000, but over 500 is great. Folks, it's a ghost town for holiday shopping everywhere, right? Interesting, folks, that we're seeing this. I've got pictures of shopping malls, pictures of retail outlets, Black Fridays, out of control. No, it's actually gone the opposite. Let's see. Here we got Marshall Cohen, Chief Industry Advisor of the NPD Group, says usually at this time of the year, you struggle to find parking. This year, I haven't had an issue getting a parking spot. Well, I got to tell you, during the Cerveza bug lockdowns, parking up north was, no problem because you weren't allowed out of your houses. But down south here and in other places where basically it said, hey, fuck you, Joe Biden. Yeah, it was almost normal, right? But crowds were thin in the late morning in Stamford Town Center, K Jewelers, Target, Macy's. They're all light. Of course, in cities like San Francisco, they're lighting the loafers as well. But hey, that's not important here. What is important, folks, is the economy is questionable. So it is for everyone. And I know we're all feeling the pinch. So I really want to say thank you, and I really appreciate the help you give us here to keep us rolling. It's going to come down to, folks, where are our priorities? What is important to us? Now, there is somebody who's making plenty of money, and that would be the military-industrial complex and Washington, D.C., working for all their good buddies behind the scenes. That's right, folks. The European Union is the one blowing the whistle on this. And yes, that is a Christmas ornament I got hanging from the ceiling because I feel so Christmassy, damn it. I really felt like sharing a little bit of holiday spirit, but also letting you guys know that, yeah, it has hit the fan big time. But the European Union has accused Washington, D.C. of making fortunes from this Ukraine war. Now, I know you're thinking FTX, money laundering, but no, we don't even have to go that far to find out why the European Union is pissed off at Washington, D.C., at Joe Biden, when they shouldn't be mad at Biden or Washington, D.C. They should be pissed off at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. But essentially, folks, by selling weapons, not only directly into Ukraine, but selling weapons to European countries who then are recommended, strongly recommended, right? You buy these weapons and you send them into Ukraine. Well, guess who makes money on that? That's right, the military-industrial complex. And then by giving away weaponry, the United States government is getting fresh new weapons. And then also gas. That's right, LNG, liquid natural gas, liquefied natural gas, is being shipped from the United States over to Europe at exceedingly high prices. Yeah, guess who's making money on that? Now, is it the United States government? Oh, wait, no, they just get export duty or export tariff for sending American products offshore to other countries where they have to pay not only the cost of the gas, plus profit, plus our tariff, plus the import tariff. By the time they get it, their energy costs are up, 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 up. So yeah, European Union, you want to play stupid, right? Play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, you dumbasses. But who ultimately is paying for this? The European people, right? We could ask Rami Mersh. We could ask, right? Our good friends here on the Prepared Mind Network who always show up from over in Europe, right? We've got super secret back squirrel, right? Spies, like Vincent Boyle in Belfast, Ireland. We got people over there reporting back to us on a regular basis, folks. Energy costs are through the roof. Reliable energy is becoming more and more scarce. People are burning their garbage. They're burning horse shit to heat their homes, folks. They're burning wood to heat their homes. And yeah, that's carbon, and more carbon, not to mention stinky carbon. Yeah, the European Union is accusing Washington of making a fortune. Well, they ought to look at Davos, Switzerland, because let's see, if the United States government, in order to buy and sell and do business, they have to borrow money from the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve is owned by banking interests in Europe. All right, I just couldn't help it, folks. I couldn't help it. I had to share a little bit of my Christmas spirit. And I want to say thank you to Mr. Skylight out there. And I got it, buddy. I got it. So let's do this. Let's get one of your super chat donations up on the board. Jolene, who do we have up? It is none other than Mr. Skylight with a $19.99 super chat donation. And he's got a quote. He says, never ruined an apology with an excuse. Never ruin an apology with an excuse. That is quite an amazing, interesting quote. If you're going to apologize, if you're going to say sorry, don't put a caveat on it. Don't justify it. Don't ruin it. Don't little. It's like, well, I'm really sorry I insulted you, but you were kind of a jerk too, right? Hey, if you're going to apologize, apologize. Now, why? Mr. Skylight put that up there. Mr. Skylight, if you would, put in the comment section what you are referencing with this particular quote, or if it's just in general. I'd like to know which story you're referring to, because I've got a lot of stuff in front of us, namely the Balenciaga issue. Okay. Never ruin an apology with an excuse, says Benjamin Franklin. I'm going to go right at Balenciaga. It's a high-level like Prada or Louis Vuitton, right? One of these super duper Italiano fashion designers, right? They make purses and bags and clothing and Shamnesty. Thank you. Yeah, Amnesty, Shamnesty. Very good. I'm gonna keep rolling with the Balenciaga now that I've opened that can of worms. They came out last week with an ad campaign featuring young children. Young children. Thank you, Jolene. Keep me appraised as we go. Young children, little girls with teddy bears that appeared to have bondage gear on them. And so then they apologized. And they replaced that with something that was supposed to be not provocative, turned out to be more provocative. And then someone had a note off of the CEO or the general manager, somebody's desk high up. Now, check this out. Look it out. Look it up, folks. See if it's bullshit. See if it's a fact. See if it's truth. But it's certainly believable, considering all of the, shall we say, Comet Ping Pong BS the last few years, all of the Jeffrey Epstein BS, all of the Jizz Maxwell BS, all of the hair sniffing by the predator in chief, right? All of the, they're just minor attracted persons, excuseology and apology coming out of the press. Well, it's not our fault. It's just the way we are, and so we should accept that. You know, the same way we accept all the other bullshit by the left wing. This is what they're pushing for, right? So apparently Balenciaga, and forgive me if I don't pronounce that fully Italian. This guy wants to, apparently this piece of paper, someone enlarged it, refined it, got a close look, and it said that that's their goal, is to normalize relations with minors, young minors. And so instead of apologizing properly, they've made excuses. And now they've turned around in an attempt to control the damage they've done to themselves. They're now going to sue the producer of these commercials for $25 million over these bondage-themed ads that Balenciaga, approved. Again, number one, folks, nothing is done in Hollywood or in the entertainment industry without having a storyboard, a chalkboard with ideas on it that goes through a process of refining. And what do they want to say? And how are they going to say it? Yada, yada, yada. But ultimately, someone has to approve of it. Someone has to approve of it, right? Unbelievable. They approve it, and now they're going to turn around and sue them for it. Unbelievable. Wow. Yeah, I mean, someone needs to ask the set designer, Nicolas Desjardins, at, let's see, North 6 Incorporated, what the hell is going on with their thing, right? With their ad campaign. Whose idea was this? This is going to continue to be a story, folks, as we get into the holiday season. You know, Christmas, the traditional Christmas is about the birth of Christ. It's celebrated on the 25th for various reasons, commonly understood to be a uniting between pagan European holidays and celebrations and Catholic belief systems, Catholicism. There you go. Anyways, that's why the birthday is celebrated on the 25th of December. So, modern times it's celebrated as a time to reward children and shower gifts upon them. And it's become a great commercial campaigning system. But yeah, it's really special for kids, right? And now it's turned into just a frickin' circus for these left-wing perverts, right? So that they can shower the world with their gift, right, of excusing their sadistic and perverted ideology through woke ads, critical race theory, minor minor attracted personology, right? Gender dysphoria. They're all about it, folks. They're all about that. All right, let's do another super chat donation. And who do we got next with this super chat button up here? It is John Sullivan with a $10 super chat donation. And he says, Big John, what can we people, meaning small people, what can we people do to get Biden impeached? I'll tell you what, we're at 400 people live, and it is now time to make an announcement. Please keep John Sullivan's comments up there because I want this announcement. It is very important as part of my overall message right now. Is we live in one of the most exciting times in human history ever. You can go back through history, and let's go to the Roman Empire. These slaves revolted under Spartacus. They revolted under Spartacus. And that affected just Rome, just Italy. I mean, it was part of the Roman Empire, but it was a very small geographic area. And throughout the early parts of the new millennia, and then through other parts of European history, there were small revolts and small fights for human independence. One of the great ones we know of was Runnymede, when King John the Jackass got to sign the Magna Carta, recognizing that people have rights. 1776, colonial Americans stated they wanted a Declaration of Independence. And now today, folks, it is not just a little piece of Italy and some slave. It's not a slave revolt. It's not just colonists who are being treated like shit who want to fight back. It is now the entire planet, the entire plane of human existence. From sea to shining sea, from continent to shining continent, from southern to northern hemisphere. Everywhere the people have a chance. We're speaking with one voice now. And it is a united voice saying no more. No more lockdowns, no more government control, no more of this. Now, is it every single human crying out? No, it isn't. But it is people on every continent and every country saying no more. This is our chance, you and me, to stand up to government. And we can only do our part in our territory and our country. To tell our elected representatives, to tell folks, our appointed representatives, to tell the dictators in charge, because a lot of them think of themselves as that, even though they go through a selection process and an appointment process. This is our chance to tell them what we want and fight for our freedom through the political process and push that process to its limit by demanding that our elected representatives and others impeach Joe Biden, impeach Kamala Harris. You bet, folks, impeach them both and then have the Senate deal with it and have the Senate excuse away their crimes, because crimes indeed is what they have committed. It is not a small thing, folks, that Joe Biden has done. From mandating people take the Jim Jones juice. Are you kidding me? Mandating an experimental thing, which of course, folks, we're going to talk a little bit more about here, right? That is deadly, right? To threatening us, to threatening the Second Amendment just the other day, to abandoning Americans, American military, allowing American military to be killed, leaving American treasure behind. Almost $100 billion in equipment, gear, and who knows what else left behind in Afghanistan. The death of Americans, the blood of Americans just wasted by Joe Biden. Unbelievable. And then the support of a slimy dictator in Ukraine. I'm no giant fan of Putin, even though I respect his intelligence. Even though Putin is not my favorite person on the planet, Zelensky is the leader of the most corrupt nation on the planet. And Joe Biden wants to send him how many billions? We're over $100 billion now. He just asked for another $37 billion the other day. Did he just send it off and say, yeah, sue me for it later? Yeah, he needs to be impeached. So write your elected representatives in Congress, in the House of Representatives. Write them, call them, email them, text them, message them online. That's what we little people, Mr. Sullivan, can do. And just don't do it once. Folks, save what you want to write in an email. Go to your email every day, copy it, and then paste it in a message and send it to your representative again and again and again. And what you should put in there is, I am a constituent member that has elected you to the House of Representatives. Joe Biden, in my opinion, has committed great crimes against the people and against the Constitution and against the law. And then list what you believe he has done wrong, whether it's Afghanistan, Ukraine, the mandates, destroying our energy in America by killing the Keystone Pipeline, which puts us in, puts our national security at risk. How about an impeachable offense is feminizing, or rather effeminizing or the military, emasculating the military, cutting the balls off the military. I think that, folks, puts us at great risk. Not just national security, but our nation, period. Right? What are we going to do? Have a bunch of, sissies stand up and go, you stop right there, Russia. You're not invading us. And China, you better back off or we're going to take away your lipstick. I mean, what? The military, folks, is being hammered, absolutely hammered with this wokeness. I think that is a crime. It is being done intentionally. They're pushing a social experimentation program, right? It's incredible, folks. It is absolutely incredible. John Sullivan, thank you, for your donation. Merry Christmas to you and to everyone else. And also, write your congressman and tell them to impeach that POS FJB in the White House. Woo! Okay. Great recommendations, Big John, right on. I tell you what, Mr. Sullivan, we need more people to stand up and tell their representatives what to do. They represent us. They don't tell us what to do. Congress is limited by the Constitution, so is the president. It does not limit us. You tell them what to do. Uman says, find your representative contact information here. Find your senator's contact information here. That's right. www.house.gov/representatives. Write your senators. But I would really recommend at this point contacting not your senators, but your representatives. The senators, if they start the impeachment process, that's when we get on them and go, when he's impeached and when Camel Toes is impeached, you will prosecute. No more of this sissy shit. I know the Democrats own the Senate. We know all about that. But there needs to be a trial. There needs to be a trial in the Senate. That's what the Senate's job is after impeachment, is to try the president. To try the president. All right, folks. I just talked about mandatory. That's right, mandatory. Jim Jones juice, is that coming? Well, it could be, folks. It could. Well, before we get there, I want to say, hey, let's play Take a Wild Guess, shall we? Take a wild freaking guess. Sponsored by the Jim Jones Juice. And welcome to the Prepared Mind channel. Sunday Night Live. It is the zoo. And hey, wild guess. How about this? Another super athlete, folks. This time it is NFL's Odell Beckham Jr. He had to be pulled off a plane, folks. Well, not for bitch slapping anyone like Mike Tyson did months ago. I'm Mike Tyson, and don't you bother me or I'll beat your ass, right? No, this is a wide receiver. And he had to be pulled off the plane because he was blanking in and out of consciousness before the flight even took off. It wasn't elevation sickness or altitude sickness. He didn't have too much to drink, right? He was just losing consciousness on a plane. I'm just saying, hey, let's take a wild guess. What do you think? Right? The Jim Jones Juice, they want to push it on us? Oh, yeah, they want to push it all over us, right? That's right, folks. They do. This little guy here, Mr. Juice Booster himself, the Booster Rooster, he has a new variant of Booster Juice. Yeah, that 99 out of 100 Americans refuse to drink because it tastes like death. Guess what? That's right. Dr. Fauci is back on the media, on the news. He will not go away. He says we need multiple cerveza bug juice boosters every year. Multiple. Multiple means 2 or 3 or 4 juice boosters every year because there's new variants. I mean, never mind that this guy came out and has lied again and again about the science. And he's come out and he's told us in the past, back when he didn't have that nasty looking mop on top of his head, it was a younger nasty looking mop that was darker. When he said, well, the best protection against the flu is to get the flu, right? I think we should listen to it because I have too many people tell me, what do you mean he's a liar? Well, he's a liar, right? And people are dying.
With COVID, I mean, the things that we thought we knew in the beginning turned out as the months went by to not be the case, which really forced us to adapt and to change some of our policies and recommendations. That was interpreted by many as flip-flopping or not really knowing what's going on, when it really was the evolution of the science.
Fuck you, Dr. Fauci.
The best vaccination is to get infected yourself. If she really has the flu, she definitely doesn't need a flu vaccine. If she really has the flu,
she should not get it again.
No, she doesn't need it because it's the most potent vaccination is getting infected yourself.
Fuck you, Dr. Fauci.
The most potent vaccination is to get infected yourself. But now he says we need multiple cerveza bug juice booster shots every year. How long, folks, until they, the federal government, try mandates again? Do you remember when President Biden stood in front of a camera and said, our patience is wearing thin? That's right, folks. Pedo Hitler himself loves to say how his patience is wearing thin. How much more of that shit do we have to suffer under, folks? Being threatened by these people, right? Threatened literally with their attitude, with violence. Oh yeah, violence is coming, folks. Hey, this is your chance to ask questions, your chance to be famous, your chance to wake the world up with your ideas, your thoughts. What do you want to talk about on this Sunday Night Live at the Zoo? You can talk about the history, the future of America. You can talk about an individual or groups. You can talk about, well, predictions, your thoughts. All you got to do is hit the super chat button and make it your turn, folks. But I want to continue to play. Let's take a wild freaking guess. Let's do this, folks. In Spain, they didn't run a full marathon. They were like, hey, let's run a half marathon. 3 runners during a half marathon, folks. 3 runners have heart attacks. Heart attacks. And 125 others require medical attention. Now, I'll tell you what, folks. I know someone who runs. He loves to run these 10K and these marathons and shit. I know an actual runner. And I don't believe he is boosted, but I don't ask him questions. Not my business any more than it's their business to ask me, are you juicinated, John? Of course, if anyone has the temerity to ask me about my personal health, I'd like to tell them to go take a flying fuck at a rolling donut. However, this guy, right, it's just a regular Joe. He's a great athlete because he runs. He's in his 40s and he runs these races. I couldn't do it. Fucking knees would shatter trying to run 25 miles, but he runs these, right? And he never says, man, I was short of breath. Man, my heart was dying, right? No. But we're having now professional runners, people who do this as a matter of course. They're just keeling over and needing medical attention. And a half marathon, folks, as a United States Marine, right? I ran 5 miles in my boots, not with some little Air Light sneakers, right? But wearing pants, fatigues, battle dress, uniform, whatever you call, and just putting on the old combat boots and going for a 5 mile run through the dirt and the sand and everything else and didn't give a shit. But now people are just fucking keeling over with heart attacks and needing medical attention. Take a wild guess why. We never ever heard about this stuff in the past. The reason we're hearing about it now is because people are paying attention because they're seeing it, they're hearing it, and they're reporting it because it is unusual. We don't ever report, folks. Well, someone had a car accident. That's crazy. We never heard of that. No, it happens all the time. But when something changed, if all of a sudden there were no car accidents, we'd go, you know what? It's odd. There were no car accidents today anywhere in America. It would be noteworthy, and then we would talk about the absence of car accidents. Right? That's what we note and talk about, is when things change, when things are different. That's when we talk about it. Right? Like all the cities in America, some cities stand out as total crap. Chicago, for example. Lots of shooting every weekend in Chicago. It's not that way in every major city, folks, but Chicago's at the head of the pack. So we talk about it. Same with Baltimore, right? We talk about all of these screwed up places. Now, unbelievable what's going on. We are, by the way, almost 45 minutes in. We're getting close to the halfway point in the show, and it is your chance to talk about crazy stuff, folks. But I want to talk about something that is just making me lose my mind. And by the way, we're almost at that 500 people live mark. Way more than the President of the United States gets. He can't hold a crowd of 200 or 300 for 5 minutes, folks. We do it repeatedly every week on Sunday Night Live. We get over 500 people live for 2 hours. Now, there's a news story out there that is developing and is continuing to develop. And it is making people choose sides. Now, again, I talked about you and I. This is our chance to make a difference. This is our world. And we're living in a time in America, a time in Europe and around the world, a time in Australia when we all have a chance to tell our government no more bullshit. No more. We're done. No more. That's what time it is, right? We're speaking up. We should be allowed to speak up because we should have the freedom to speak however we want. Now, Elon Musk, who I'm not a huge fan of, and I do not like his Tesla automobiles, folks, but I appreciate that he's making free speech something we're all talking about. It's funny, yeah. You're not allowed free speech, but you can talk about whether or not we should be allowed to have free speech. At least we've got that going for us. And Elon Musk had come out, he's the owner of Twitter now. And he claims, right, he goes after, because the claim is that reinstating banned Twitter accounts puts lives at risk. If you reinstate people, then Vladimir Putin is going to have the ability to speak to the world, and we can't have that. Well, what if Vladimir Putin of Russia comes out and talks about peace? What if he wants to talk about peace and that we shouldn't have war? What if Putin wants to come out and talk about, the agreement by NATO not to expand into Eastern European countries, and that they have done just that for years now, and it is putting their security at risk, which NATO agreed they would not do, then they changed their mind. What if he talks about facts that Europe doesn't like and the United States government doesn't like, and he makes the people of the world aware of facts? That would be interesting, huh? Who knows what Putin's going to talk about? Now, if he talks about something crazy, if Putin comes out and he says some awful shit, I guess maybe they could just take that one off, right? They could say, hey, Putin, you're not allowed to talk about that. The same way if I talk about something bad, YouTube says, bad, John. We're going to take that video off the internet. How hard is it to take that off? But if Putin wants to speak facts and truth, maybe he ought to be given that voice. Well, what about Xi Jinping? Well, he's got a lot to answer for, folks, right? But I want to hear what these clowns have to say so I can test it on the John thinking process. Are they lying? Are they telling the truth? Now, as we know, most politicians, you can tell when they're lying because their lips are moving. Anyways, the claim was that reinstating Twitter accounts that were formerly banned puts lives at risk. Folks, you know what puts the most lives at risk? I'm not worried about 1 or 2 people being waxed, 4 or 5 people being greased, 3 or 4 people ending up in holes in the desert. You know what I'm worried about? I'm worried about millions and millions and millions of people being killed. Folks, silence. The silencing of people by government and by social institutions allowed Hitler, Stalin, Chairman Mao to murder over 100 million people. We need more of that. We need to silence people. It's my opinion that silencing people puts far more people at risk of being killed than reinstating a few banned Twitter accounts that could put a few lives at risk. You know what puts lives at risk? The Associated Press telling the world that Russia launched 2 missiles into Poland and then trying to demand that NATO respond against Russia directly. That put hundreds of thousands and millions of lives at risk, far more than a couple of people talking on Twitter and using a few words. Folks, this is one hell of a time to be alive. And you and I have a voice like never before. You can reach thousands of people right here on the Prepared Mind Network. If you hit the super chat button, put your question up here, right? Your donations, of course, keep us online, keep us going. That's what happens here, folks. We keep the conversation going. We keep talking, and your thoughts, your ideas, right, wake people up. Help them think. So, Jolene, who has something to say out there? Who wants to talk? And is none other than Alex Jones with a Canadian $5 super chat donation. And he says, John, that Christmas ornament looks a little kinky. Well, it looks like a candy cane with some snowflakes on it and a bow, and I think it looks pretty normal. I mean, it's just a candy cane kind of hanging from the ceiling, if you know what I mean. I don't know what to say. Are you making fun? Are you trying to say that like a Balenciaga or whatever? And we went over 500 live finally. Good deal. Yeah. It's no. It's not a bear in bondage. It's just a candy cane. Crazy stuff out there, folks. We have a lot going on. What do you want to talk about? This is your show. Now, let's get into this, folks. Over in China, this is a topic, right? Because in China, they're continuing to try and control their people with their zero COVID strategy. Their zero COVID strategy. Why would China, folks, a totalitarian regime that allows major corporations to do business there with cheap labor and pay the Chinese government all kinds of taxes? Well, they get that, folks. The Chinese government gets taxes. The corporations make a ton of money. The people of China get to work cheaper than anywhere else on the planet. Why is it that they need to keep their people locked down with their zero COVID strategy? Well, the protests in China are spreading everywhere. The anger is increasing. China, folks, is every bit as pissed off and disgusted with their government as we are with ours over their attempts at totalitarian control. Now, the government thought that they could make people happier by sharing with them more wealth, right? By bringing in the current economic system where corporations get to make a bunch of money, the Chinese people get to pay less in taxes, right? They're trying to use the rather than let's just tax the shit out of everybody and control them, try and control them with, well, you've got some wealth now, you got some freedom now, you own some property now, you better do as we say or we'll take that away from you. Well, a little bit of freedom has gone a long way in China, and they're protesting. They don't like what's going on, and they realize and they know that their government can take everything from them, right, very quickly. Right? Students in Beijing are shouting, freedom will prevail. Right? Disobedience is high as it has ever been under Xi Jinping's power. Right? There's an apartment fire that happened. Right? Thousands of people gathering at the Capitol. They're refusing to disperse. People are being killed. It's interesting, folks. People are desperate. People are pissed. People are tired of this, right? They're saying, Communist Party, step down, Xi, right? Step down. Now, I don't know if China's any worse than America. Now, normally I'd say, well, hell yeah, China's worse than America. You know, they're a bunch of stinking communists. Well, they're in Beijing, and they're saying to the communist government, step down. Xi Jinping, step down, right? Resign. Right? That's how bad it is over there. And would you have any idea that it was that bad over there? Well, how would we know? Because the mainstream media doesn't really cover it all that much, and they don't tell us how bad things are in China. They just don't. Things are bad enough in America where if you go to Washington, D.C. and you protest a little too loudly, you end up in jail, right? They'll get you for trespassing or violating the government's mandates or whatever. Look out, folks. China is protesting more than America. Well, maybe Americans like the Chinese, right, just need to have a little more of their rights and freedom taken from them before they say, you know what? What's the difference between being locked up in prison and locked up in your own house? Or owned by the government rather than owning yourself. It's going to get interesting, folks. It's going to get really, really nasty. And it's, I think, going to get a lot worse before it gets better, which is why we need to write our representatives, right? Prep to action. Whew. Okay, we've got a super chat donation. So let's get to it. Who's up next? It is again Alex Jones with another Canadian $2. And he said, just wanted you to smile, bro. And I appreciate that, man. I also like your goofy avatar there, the smoking monkey with the Confederate shirt. You know, someone said something about the Confederate flag last week and got my attention. Right, I am in the South, folks. I'm in Studio B. And someone said, yeah, Confederate flag, man, that's about slavery. And I was like, really? Tell me more. Buana, you seem to know everything. Yeah, it's a symbol of slavery. And I was like, are you sure it's a symbol of slavery? That is what the mainstream media would have you believe. But the Confederate flag, folks, was about resisting federal government overreach, federal government tyranny. What do you think we have today, folks, coming out of Washington, D.C.? Right? We have federal overreach. We have federal lies, right? That you have to do what the federal government says, and that they can punish us. They can take away from us that which we have, right? I don't think that that these people in D.C. realize. Well, no, should I take that back? They do realize that they don't have the right to tell us to do anything, but they want us to believe the lie that they do have the right to tell us everything. And the Confederate flag symbolizes telling that authority, you don't control us, right? That we are free, that we can be independent of you, that we are of and by right independent of Washington, D.C. and power, right? Their job is very strictly laid out in the Constitution, what the federal government has a right, or rather has the authority to do. Government has no rights, folks. Government has no rights. All they have is authority that we, the people, have granted them. So there's your Confederate flag, and I wanted to give you a little bit of peace of my mind there, Alex. And the same guy told me, right, how Alex Jones, right, is crazy, right? No, that was another guy. He told me Alex Jones is crazy. I said, is he any crazier than the mainstream media? Is he any crazier than people like these clowns right here that would tell you that Republicans are a threat?
There are public figures today, yesterday, and the day before predicting and all but calling for mass violence and rioting in the streets.
Obviously, Republicans, I think, are the biggest threat to democracy. We don't separate right-wing extremists and Republican Party anymore. Republicans, I think, are the biggest threat to democracy.
Biggest threat to democracy? How can Alex Jones be worse than that? Well, I was told he talked about the Sandy Hook killings, and that was wrong. I was like, well, what was wrong about it? Well, he said that people didn't die. I said, do you know that people died or didn't die? He's like, yeah, the news told me they died. I said, really, you believe the news? Same person who tells me they don't believe anything the news says. Yeah, I don't believe anything the news says, John. I know better than that. And then, of course, you go, well, Sandy Hook. And they're like, yeah, the news said people died. I was like, but you just told me that you don't believe what the news says. Now you're telling me that in the case of Sandy Hook, you believe what the news says. Did you see any of the documentaries that were produced? Well, no. I said, well, I would love to share them with you, but I don't have them because YouTube took them all off. He said, see, they were making money off that, exploiting the death of children. I said, I don't think anyone on YouTube was able to, because they changed things, folks. You are not allowed to monetize videos that talk about death. Except for NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, you know, those guys, they can monetize death all day long, but I can't, and I don't. And I'm not allowed to talk about Handy Sook anyways. But perhaps those videos, I should go check on BitChute and see if those Sandy Hook videos are available. At the very least, they cause you to ask questions. Folks, that's all I do is say, I've got an idea. Why don't you think about it? Right? Is it believable? I mean, I can, like 9/11, for example. I'm not going to talk about Building 7 and the fact that it was never hit by a plane, yet it fell. You know, skyscrapers collapse all the time. But how about how Muhammad Atta, right, the leader of the people who supposedly took over the planes and then crashed them into the World Trade Center, how his passport managed to survive all of that superheated fuel that was hot enough to burn through multiple steel girders. How many dozens of steel girders supported that, as well as the exoskeleton? Crazy. But his passport could flutter out of that incredible explosion of flames and land on the sidewalk, and someone picked it up and said, aha, a passport from that plane. That must be the guy who did all of this. Crazy stuff. All right, Jolene, someone out there wants to ask us a question from across the fruited prepared plain. Who is it? It is Alex Jones. He said, blue is the water of baptism and red is the blood of Christ. So blue is the water of baptism and red is the blood of Christ. Well, okay then. The baptism is John the Baptist. And red is the blood of Christ. Okay, then. We'll go with that. Now, on his flag. On his flag. Thank you very much, Prepared Mother. If we go back to red and also white, we got it all right there. Red, white, and blue. Very good. Thank you again. Folks, Christmas is Christ Mass, right? Where you celebrate the teachings of that guy known as Jesus the Christ, right? The King, the Son of God, the Son of Man. It is a Christian holiday. So look into the history of it, right? I'm pretty sure that the guy named Jesus said, sell your cloak and buy a sword. He also said, I have not come to bring peace, but war. Did he say that? Am I remembering that correctly? Right? You got some interesting messages, right? Jesus is thought of as a very peaceful guy, right? He wants people to think and this and that, but he was also living in Jerusalem at a time when the Romans were there and they were being very cruel. The Romans tended to be cruel to their subjects. And there were several attempts before and after Jesus at insurrection. That's right. Rebellion against the Roman Empire in an attempt to free their country from the yoke of slavery. And it was so bad at one point that Rome actually they expelled every Jew from Jerusalem at that time, kicked them all out and said, you guys don't have your city anymore. Kicked them out. Crazy times back then, folks, and we have crazy times today. All right, let's do some more super chat donations. We got Chester Wolf the Griffin with a $2 super chat. He says, hashtag died suddenly, was training on Twitter for 2 weeks. Okay. There were some other very interesting deaths, folks. People who are doing online broadcasting, much like I'm doing right now. We're live. We're at the 1 hour mark. We've got 500 plus people. People are continuing to keel over while they're sitting in their chair doing podcasting, whether it's on YouTube or some other private podcasting channels. People, they just do this thing where they just kind of turn. It's interesting. I've seen this many, many times now. And if you look on the internet, you'll find it. In fact, I sent it out to the R Syndicate members today, the one that was particularly disturbing. They always seem to turn and look behind them like they hear something behind them. And they turn and then they keel over. Looks like they're having a stroke or a seizure, but a lot of times they have a look on their face of confusion and terror. People, yeah, they're training. Wow, they're not even doing anything physically, shall we say, demanding, and people keel over. It's another one of those questions I have about, taking a wild guess what's killing these ridiculous young people. Of course, I like to think that it's the Jim Jones juice, because I don't remember people keeling over, young people keeling over while sitting around. They're not training hard, right? We have athletes who train very hard and then they keel over on the soccer field. They have shortness of breath on the tennis court, right? They all the time keeling over. Athletes in their 40s, their 30s, their 20s, the teenagers. But then we also have people just keeling over, right? We have news announcers passing out. We have politicians blabbing their mouths off in Parliament, just keeling over. I've got video after video after video of it. And I like to ask the question, what the hell is going on? And we're just not getting the answers we need. Well, except on the Prepared Mind channel. Folks, if you're a member of subscribestar.com, a premium member, or premium member on the preparedmind.club, we put through suggestions. You can call it suggestions. Here's a news story. Go take a look. Here's some videos. Why don't you take a look-see and see what they're talking about, right? What the cause is. Why, right? I don't like to say, geez, it's a mystery. I like to go, well, can we look around and find some solutions, some answers? All the American doctors, all the World Health Organization doctors, all the National Institute of Health doctors, all of the Food and Drug Administration doctors, they seem to be a little bit confused about what's going on. Well, we don't know what's causing the sudden adult death syndrome. I'm like, well, why don't we ask some doctors who have some freaking ideas? Maybe they have evidence. Wheesh. Okay, let's do this. We got more super chat donations, and let's get into it. We got Boomer21 with a $10 Canadian super chat donation. And I want to say, everyone, right? Semper Fi, always faithful, don't give up. Now, he says, major banks are now doing a pilot on digital currency in order to phase out cash. How long do you think it'll before we go cashless and lose just about all our freedoms? They're pushing it, Boomer. They're pushing it. They have to test the digital currency, the central bank digital currency, the CBDCs. They want to do it in America. They're doing it in Canada. They're trying it in New York. They want to get everyone used to using that. Now, how do you get central bank digital currency? Right? I still think we're going to get something called the Fed coin. I've been talking about that for, I think, over 5 years. Fed coin. Right? Unless they just want to call it a central bank digital currency. I just don't think people like that enough. One of the things we can do is, well, it's going to be a year or two, but they have to do things incrementally, right? They need to go step by step by step. It won't be an event where they go, that's it, no more cash for you, right? It's step by step by step. They talk about it a long time, and then they introduce it, they test it, they pull it back, they test it, they perfect it, they get people used to seeing it and using it, right? Kind of like how they got people used to doing direct deposit on their paychecks. Instead of getting a paycheck, you're like, yeah. They just direct deposit it, so you didn't even get a paper check for payday, right? And then they said they got you used to doing digital banking, saying if you do digital banking and use your ATM card, there's no fees, right? And then they started charging big fees to use paper checking and big fees to go into your bank, right? They're like, hey, but if you go to that ATM machine, you start getting used to using digital transactions with your ATM, your debit card. There's no fees. Now there's fees. Right now they want to charge you fees for doing any banking, but if you start using the digital currency of theirs, well, that everything is they give us little carrots out in front of us, but it's a series of events. So they could do it Boomer, in the next year, or it could take 5 years to get total control of us. First, they get you to use it, and then they say, oh, by the way, you have to spend it all. You don't get to save it up, right? You have to spend it. You have to spend it in these ways. Oh, because you're a bad person. We've been watching how you spend your money. You're just buying too much carbon-based stuff, and carbon's bad, right? So they'll punish some types of spending, and they'll reward other types of spending. So now they start using social engineering to force people to behave differently by punishing things they don't like and rewarding things they do. Right? It's been going on for, folks, millennia. It truly has been going on for millennia. And they continue to refine it and find ways to make us be their bitches. So, cash, getting rid of cash, you bet. First, they got rid of gold. Then they got rid of silver. Then we got a petrodollar. Now we have a completely fiat currency based on nothing. Then they want to go to a currency based on nothing that is digitally controlled by them so they can track everything we do and control us even more. I tell you what, you'll know that they absolutely, totally control us when, right, when you start getting punished or locked out of your bank account. And that is already happening. It is totally already happening. Let's do this. Let's do another super chat donation, folks, as we get into our second hour. Jolene, what do we have next? We have, well, it's Boomer again. Oops, he says, no, it's William C. with a $5 super chat donation. And the super chat donation button's up there, folks, and it is the Get the Fuck Back and Stay Back pilot funding for this channel. It is your chance to be famous and get your question up. It is your chance to speak to the world, to make people think, right? And I really find that to be a very powerful thing. Now, William C. says, when I talk to juicinated people about all the deaths, that's people who have taken the Jim Jones juice, they say they are scared. The media is covering up and normalizing Jim Jones juice deaths. Now, I spoke to somebody who took the Jim Jones juice. This is over Thanksgiving. And he told me, you people, you non-vaxxers, you guys are a bunch of cultists. And I mentioned this the other day, and I said, really, we're part of the cult? Who is the charismatic leader that benefits financially and who benefits by controlling people and telling them not to take it? Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Nobody. Who benefits financially through both money and power and control by telling people to take the Jim Jones juice? That's right, Dr. Fauci, the federal government, the bureaucracies, world government, the World Health Organization, they benefit both financially and politically with political power and control by scaring the shit out of people and talking them into getting the Jim Jones juice. So who are the liars out there? I've already played the Dr. Fauci thing. I'm not going to play it again. But I do like Megyn Kelly telling him, fuck you, Dr. Fauci, because he's earned it. He really has. This guy, folks, that I talked to claims to be a Republican, but he took the juice, and then he starts saying that we're cultists. And I said, you're listening to a little man who has lied repeatedly, flip-flopped repeatedly, and said it was safe. It's not. Said it's effective. It's not. Right? Can we put that back up there, Jolene, just for a couple more seconds? I want to make one more point. And the fact that the media is both covering up and normalizing the deaths. People are scared because they're seeing it and they're hearing about it. It's interesting, William, that you got people to admit they're scared. All right, we can take down Mr. William C. Thank you again for your super chat donation. But folks, the normalization of it, by giving it a name, SADS, sudden adult death syndrome, instead of Jim Jones juice death syndrome. Right? Again, SADS ends with DS, death syndrome. The only thing that's changed, folks, has been the introduction of the Jim Jones juice. And it's affecting young adults. It's affecting new adults in their 20s. It's affecting older adults in their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, their 60s. And it's being normalized by saying, well, we have a new disease out there, sudden adult death syndrome. With no clear cause, they say. Well, I say, how about if you go to thepreparedmind.club and look up, right, what we're seeing. And we have great researchers out there, folks, finding stories, finding information, finding videos, finding news stories. And I want to thank Mr. Skylight. I want to thank Fuzzy. I want to thank Bonnie Blue. I want to thank others for sending me this information. People like Heidi out there. Right. I got this, folks. Right. But their response, folks, and this is unfucking believable. We have a researcher. Is he an expert or is he a jackass? Well, in my opinion, he's a complete and total jackass, but claims, right, to be an expert. Look it up. Look it up, folks. Raymond D. Palmer claims, right, to be an mRNA chemist from Western Australia. Well, he admitted there are serious risks to the Jim Jones juice, but he blamed you and me for it. How can we be responsible for what mRNA stuff does? Well, he says much of the sentiment can be attributed to the alleged side effects that are perpetrated across social media from the anti-Jim Jones juice groups. He says, get this quote, fear-mongering and misinformation being peddled by people with no scientific training to terrorize people into staying unjuicinated is not just causing people to remain susceptible to outbreaks, but could also be causing more side effects seen in the process for those who are juicinated. Right? Vasoconstriction and arterial constriction are caused by mental stress from the fear-mongering and disinformation being pushed by anti-vaxxers, he says. Really? So the stress that we create by talking is worse than the stress created by the government for threatening them, for trying to take their jobs, their lives, their family, their homes, their cars? How about that fucking stress? How about the stress of World War III? Does that cause vasoconstriction and arterial constriction? No. It's your crazy neighbor next door saying, hey, man, why don't you read the story I sent you? Or, hey, you should check out some of these articles. May make you want to get detoxed. Right? That's where the real stress comes from. Get this. He claims, get this. He claims that we have no scientific training. Well, if that's the case, if I have no scientific training, then why would anyone take what I have to say seriously? In other words, if you don't take me seriously because I have no scientific training, then there's no stress from anything I say. Yet someone who is a political expert in a position of power, speaking about a war they want to start, yeah, that could cause some stress. But I think it's ridiculous to claim, folks, that vasorestriction or arterial constriction of arteries is causing heart attacks and death and seizures and strokes and blood clots and neurological problems and paralysis and other strange diseases. I don't think that can be attributed to a little bit of stress coming from social media and all of us non-experts in social media. I think it's probably coming from the Jim Jones juice, which is clogging arteries, which is causing vasoconstriction, arterial constriction, causing strokes as these clots break off and get stuck in the freaking brain, as well as neurological disorders. Maybe, folks, yeah. Maybe the cause is coming from somewhere else, not me or you. By the way, how much training does one need in science before we're considered a scientist? How many hours of reading data do I need to be before I'm an expert? And just how low is that jackass's IQ for expecting us to believe that you and I are causing a ton of stress? So much stress that we're causing death around the world. How about all the stress caused by Zelensky. Are Russians keeling over, by the way? Are Russian people keeling over from all the stress that they're under, knowing that they could end up being forced into military service? Oh, by the way, I want you to take a wild freaking guess at this one. Uh-oh, right? A 30-year-old crypto co-founder, right? The co-founder of another crypto company. No, he's not in trouble, folks, for stealing money. No, he died suddenly in his sleep. I'm sure he was stressed out over my opinions. I'm not so sure that it wasn't the Jim Jones juice. I'm sure he had a lot more to be stressed about, like the failure of his crypto company because of Joe Biden's involvement and the Democrat Party's involvement and the Rhino Republicans' involvement in the FTX money laundering scandal over in Ukraine using people's investment funds and their crypto companies. Yeah, maybe that had something to do with all of his high blood pressure and dying in his sleep and the Jim Jones juice. I mean, take a wild freaking guess. All right, Jolene, who do we have out there? Who wants to talk? Who has a question? Who has some thoughts in the Prepared Mind channel? Who wants to make a donation and then, pow, get their thoughts up here? Who do we have next? I'm pretty sure we got 1 or 2 or 6 people. I can't remember. Oh, wait a minute. Nope. Before we get to that, hold off. There was something I wanted to get put in here about the stress again. Sorry about that. Could the stress that's killing people in America and Europe, could that be caused by the warmongering and fear-mongering of their very peaceful Europe? Remember how we're told that America is warmongering? You remember that? That America is always starting wars? Well, folks, they're now trying to start wars not in Eastern Europe, but in Western Europe. In France, the interior minister has called Italy a, quote, enemy. That's right. Italy is the enemy of France. Why? Is it because Italy is pointing nuclear missiles at France? Is it because Italy is threatened to invade France? Is it because Italy is denying France energy, gas, oil? Has Italy engaged in, cyber warfare with France? Has Italy stolen truckloads of gold from France? You know what Italy did? Is they said, we don't want illegal immigrants forced into our country. We're a sovereign nation and we don't want that anymore. And consequently, France ended up accepting these immigrants on their shores into their country instead of Italy choking on them. And so that is why France is now labeling Italy an enemy. So if they're the enemy now, literally, what does that mean? Does that mean they need to go to war? I've just really marveled at how you're either going to do as we say and believe as we believe, or you're going to become our enemy. This attitude, right? You're either with us or against us. That's a choice, right? The false logic choice. There's only 2 choices. You have to do what we say, or you're the bad guy. That's really a game that's been played for a couple of decades now. And it's rather cruel to give people a choice of 2 shitty options. Right? How about we just accept the fact that countries are run by their own people instead of forcing world government on them? Well, it just goes to show you the amount of effort and the strength of the demand that all countries obey the will of other countries, and that these countries, right, that are unified, right, they have to hide where that unification is coming from. Who supports that unification? How does that unification benefit these groups and these people? That's who the World Economic Forum is, folks. They are the ones who are benefiting from the European Union through their control. They are the ones who are benefiting from it. And they use their control to control Germany, to control England as much as they can, to control France, the Netherlands, Sweden, or any other united, under the, I like to call it the United States of Europe, the European Union. It's incredible, folks. And they keep pushing us towards more war, which is SHTF. The people of the world have a chance to become free. The whole world can listen and see what the rest of the world is doing. In America, we can look at China and say, hey, look, their people over there are saying no more lockdowns. We don't like it. Right? This idea that you can be forced to take the Jim Jones juice. Right? No, Americans are saying, not a fucking chance. You can't force us to. If you want to take it, you go right ahead, but you're not going to make me take it. Right? I believe it's a death shot. It'll kill you, or it'll kill me. I don't know what it's going to do to you, but I'm not going to take the Jim Jones juice. Not a chance. Right? I'll take a shot of this, but I'm not going to take the Jim Jones juice. Right? There's certain things that certain people are willing to fight for. Oh, yeah. There's certain things that people are willing to fight for. Second Amendment rights, the right not to be injected. Italy's like, well, how about not invading our country? We're willing to fight over that. Right? People of China are saying no more lockdowns. People in other countries are fighting against the central banks. It's incredible, folks. We around the world have a chance, an opportunity to fight for our individual freedoms, our collective freedoms, and international freedom. And we're going to have more of this SHTF nonsense coming right at us. I mean, now understand the political left, they are so strongly against freedom and so strongly, right, in favor of their belief systems that they'll attack anyone that they don't like. In fact, they'll even attack each other. And I got this great story over the weekend that made me laugh really hard. Right, so CNN, right? That's the Communist News Network. They had a guest on who is a trans person. Now, I want you to remember that the Colorado shooter, right, claimed that they were trans. Right. Well, the trans guest refused to acknowledge the gender identity that the Colorado shooter claimed. And this person said it was obvious from the mugshot, that's a man. And I thought, that's interesting. I thought it was how you identified. These people, folks, they do come apart at the seams. They do make themselves and others in their group look ridiculous. But I think it continues to be an imperative point for us to look at how nuts these people are, how hypocritical they are, how illogical they are, how they use false logic in their debate and their accusations. They're that nuts. They're that crazy. Can you imagine playing Monopoly or Parcheesi with someone who ignores the rules and just does what they want? Right? Let's say they roll a 12 and they move 6 spaces. And they're like, that's all I want to do. Or they roll a 6 and they move 10 spaces. They're like, well, I wanted to land on that square. And you're like, you can't do that. You got to do what the dice say. They're like, no, I'm going to do what I want because the rules don't apply to me. You'll never win. So why would you play with them and why would you argue with them? Well, they're going to continue to argue with us, folks. And they're going to continue to play games. Right? And that's just how they are. They're absolutely nuts. They're absolutely crazy. It's obvious from the mugshot, that's a man. They're refusing to acknowledge each other. Well, the reason they are, folks, is the Colorado shooter. Well, that's a murderer, and we can't have them in our ranks. It's a little bit too late now, folks. We know that these mass murderers are a bunch of lunatics. Right? Yeah, well, by their very nature, they're lunatics. They're mass murderers. Well, they're also turning out to be the woke type again and again and again. Meanwhile, the president says you and I are the real risk to national security, right? We're the violent extremists, right-wing Republicans. That's the story they push. That's the story they tell. That's the story they believe, and that's the story they act on. And we're in SHTF, and guess what? They want to put us in concentration camps, folks. They want to silence us just like the Nazis did. They want to put us in concentration camps just like the Nazis did. So I ask you, are you prepared? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and a means of self-defense? If, heaven forbid, these lunatics ever, well, initiate their programs. And what's it going to take, folks, as a series of things go into effect and they get to the point where, what if Joe Biden says, my patience is wearing thin with regard to the Second Amendment? What happens if we have a massive, coordinated, left-wing attack strategy play out? I'm going to talk about that next. But first, I want to get to a super chat donation. And then, folks, we'll talk. Unless this one addresses the very topic I just came up with. Okay, Jolene, what do we got right now? At this moment, we have Boomer with a Canadian $5 super chat donation. He says, if open borders would have taken place over 60 years ago, we would have revolted by now. It was a whole different world back then. 60 years ago, in 1962, right? People, they were far more conservative. In 1962, America had John F. Kennedy as the president. His political statements and policies, by today's standards, are considered right-wing extremist. And he was a Democrat. But they have incrementally, slowly pushed us in a direction where now we are at this place, Boomer, 60 years later, where they have the most radical statements, the most off-the-hook ideas and concepts. Open borders, you bet, right? Gender swapping, gender identification. You can just say and claim to be anything you want. Yeah. They're making arguments that having sex with children is acceptable. They're making arguments that the Constitution is bad. They're making arguments, right, that everyone who's white is a Nazi and a white supremacist and they're evil. They're making the most obscene and ridiculous statements. And we're supposed to just believe that and accept it because they're saying it, right? 60 years ago, every single one of these people would be laughed off the stage. Well, actually, 60 years ago, they'd be locked up in mental institutions because back then, right? Back then, people who were screwy, who didn't demonstrate any logic or reason, they got put in loony bins, nut houses, because they were considered a danger to society. Today, they just let them out on the street and say, go steal all you want. Take drugs, shoot up, do whatever you want on the street, rob people. We don't care. Now, right, I want to talk about this. This is incredible and it's dangerous, right? The left, right? They say that free speech kills. They say that free speech put lives at risk, right? Silenced voices allowed mass murder by the millions, right? Ask anybody in the 1930s or 40s, and they said they couldn't say a word about Hitler assuming more power as he silenced and censored his opposition. The same happened with Stalin, folks. The same happened with Chairman Mao. It's the same with all dictators and dictatorships and extremists, right? They all want silence. They want no opposition, right? They want to put everyone, folks, in concentration camps. That's what Hitler did with everyone who opposed him, not just the Jews, not just the gypsies. It wasn't just the Jews, wasn't just the gypsies. It was anyone who opposed him was arrested and put in concentration camps. So people quit criticizing. Now, who is it that wants us in concentration camps and re-education camps and, folks, just plain old death camps? That's right, the political leftists. From people on the street to celebrities, like cute little Katie Couric who says we need re-education camps, to death camps, just calling for the outright death of anyone who does not accept the left wing, right? That noble crowd of dictators, folks, soon to be joined by Justin Trudeau, Ursula von der Leyen, right, of the European Union, and every other socialist, folks, who's bent on total control. That's what they're pushing for. That's what they want. They want to control us socially, control us financially. They want political control. That's why they need to come after our guns yet again. And that's why they're pushing the guns yet again. Folks, I'm expecting massive false flags between now and Christmas. Between now and Christmas. Right? It's over. The elections are settled. The Republicans control the House. Well, they need to make guns look bad. And it is the shopping season. And even though the crowds aren't as big as they normally are, shopping malls are still crowded. In fact, Walmart, right? That's where the last big shooting happened, at a Walmart. Not by someone in the public, but by a Walmart employee, period. These people are dangerous, folks, and they're leftists, and they're woke. They're going to come after and use guns, and then they're going to use that as an excuse to take yours or try to take yours, because these people want to take our guns and they want us to be silent. You're not allowed to talk about anything, right? You just have to do as they say, because their patience is wearing thin, right? Why? It's crazy, right? In the meantime, a lot of them are giving up, which is great. I want them to give up, the leftists, like Sam Harris, who is a never Trumper, right? He, in his rage, has quit Twitter, which is great, right? I want these people off of Twitter. I want them off of all social media, because the fewer of these leftists out there, the better off you and I are. Right? The more of us are allowed to talk, the better off we all are. This is our chance to stand up and fight. Yes, call your congressman. Yes, write your congressman. Yes, write your coworkers, your friends, your family, and tell them, right? Continue to talk. Continue to make an argument for freedom, for liberty, for free speech, for the Second Amendment. Continue to make an argument for real money, not digital currency. Make an argument for cash. Right? Make an argument for no taxes, low taxes versus high taxes. Make an argument for America, for freedom, for the military, for independence. We need to make those arguments, right? And let the crybabies out there who don't like it, let them find somewhere else to talk. Anyways, let's do this. Let's get to a super chat question. And we have Matt D with a 556 super chat donation. He says, Hillary told us, that would be Hillary Rodham Clinton, Hillary, told us in 2016 they are fun camps. Yeah, they're fun camps, all right. Yeah, fun camps. Do you think the Jews back in the 30s and 1940s thought they were fun camps? Well, if you think about it and you listen back, yeah, not only was it Hillary, but also Bernie Sanders, another Democrat, who, while the Soviet Union was hardcore leftist communist, talked about, well, concentration camps and work camps in the Gulag, right? That is the Russian or Soviet system where political prisoners were held. Well, they got it pretty good in those work camps, way out in the middle of frozen over Siberia. That's okay. They had housing, they had a place to live and sleep, and they had clothes, and they got food, and they had a job. I mean, what could be better than to have a job that and they made sure you were safe and protected from everyone else by keeping you in these concentration camps? Yeah, I could see why they're fun camps. If you want an idea of what a Soviet work camp looked like, look up the last 2 episodes of this season's Stranger Things, where the police officer who was kidnapped by the Russians or Soviets, because the show takes place in the 1980s, he's in a work camp in Siberia, freezing his ass off, terrible conditions. Yeah, they give you food, just barely enough. Yeah, they give you clothing, just barely enough. Yeah, you're really taken care of very well. No, folks, there is no such thing as a fun camp, because if you're held against your will, then you can be treated less than human. Now, understand this, folks. If you think you're free and you're not, well, that's a great question. John, are you free right now? What happens if I quit paying taxes? Well, I am going to be prosecuted and punished, so I'm not free that way, am I? No, I am held as against my will to work for the government, for several months out of the year to pay them protection money. They're supposed to be protecting me from who? Well, from all enemies, foreign and domestic. Well, really, who is the foreign enemy that is trying to hurt me? Well, John, don't you know that there's terrorists out there? Yeah, there's terrorists, So is the government doing a great job? I don't know. Right? Sure paying a lot of money, just like you guys are, for, well, an emasculated military. I'm feeling less and less secure, folks. Right? The people that are supposed to be in charge of protecting us aren't doing a very good job. In fact, a lot of people would make the claim that they're abusing us. Kind of like, folks, the 3 school staff members who have been arrested because they allegedly locked up a 5-year-old boy, a special needs kid. In their fun camp called a school, they locked this 5-year-old up with no food. Now, allegedly or reportedly, this kid had to, started drinking his own urine because he was that desperate for something to drink. I don't understand how this could have happened, right? This Texas teacher, her 2 aides, right, have been arrested, folks. So they have some real evidence, right? Isolating a 5-year-old kid with special needs for so long that he did that, right? Folks, by the way, that's how Democrats are. They're full of, love and respect and patience and consideration of others. Is that a fun camp for this kid? Very similar, folks, to a concentration camp when, the people in charge of you have enough power and authority to lock you up. Now, let's see, you don't like how you're being treated, so you go to Washington, D.C. to protest what's happening in the country. And you're arrested and locked up for 2 years with no trial, no real crime, with your rights violated on a daily basis, threatened, beaten, held in what is known as a tortuous situation under the United Nations' own rules. Yet this situation continues. It persists. It persists. Even though the Republicans now have control of the House of Representatives, where are the leaders in the House of Representatives? Where are they? Why are they not? Let me ask that again. Why are they not demanding that those people be released? Why are they not being released? Thank you, Jolene. Right? Where are they? Unbelievable, folks. It is crazy, crazy, crazy. I got you, Jolene. I got you. It really is that disturbing, folks, what is happening out there. Here we are, Sunday night. We go from Thanksgiving, we go into the holiday hardcore season, Christmas. Right? And what are we looking at, folks? We're continuing to look at a lot of real trouble around there. Real trouble in our country and around the world. Right? We have some radical problems that are continuing. Right? This war against free speech is off the hook. And now it appears as if there is a kind of a pseudo-military attack going on. Now, there's this character. I believe he is, folks, Ukraine. Remember him? His name was Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. That's right, Ukrainian-born Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman. Well, he's retired. But he was a prominent figure during President Trump's impeachment. Right. Anyways, he is now, after being a insider who decided to do his very best to screw over Trump, this clown is now on Twitter attacking Elon Musk. And he says this, it's kind of weird that Elon Musk gets to decide how he likes, how like a 500 million people communicate. Way too much power for one erratic individual to wield, don't you think? Apparently, he doesn't know how to spell weird. Anyways, Vindman asked that. Kind of weird that Elon Musk gets to decide how, like, a 500 million people communicate. Guy needs to learn some better English. Way too much power for one erratic individual to wield, don't you think? Is Elon Musk erratic? It's interesting that he has a lot of power. Yeah, he's very wealthy and controls Tesla and controls SpaceX, controls now Twitter. Who controlled what was being said and done on Twitter? The most radical leftists, folks, that think that you can threaten President Trump and that, well, the Ayatollah Khomeini in Iran can threaten Americans, but individuals can't question a medical demand that is questionable. I mean, weird. Anyways, Vindeman is showing us who he is, folks. Once again, who are these people on the left and what do they want? Now, I'd like to, I like to bring this concept of free speech up. It's very important. They're really trying to scare us. They're really trying to destroy freedom. They're really trying to hurt our liberty. Are you prepared? Right? This is what they're up to. Right? These people sound like the most unintelligent, dangerous individuals of all time. These people who are called the deep state, who were in the military and have ruined that. How they're in the bureaucracy in DC and they've ruined that. They've taken it over. They've controlled it. Trump called it the swamp. Then they brought out the deep state. Then he called it the fake news. Right? I mean, all of this happened under Trump. This exposure of what's going on. And it continues. The political left has continued to support racism and allowed racist behavior to continue. Right. So here we have another story. In New Jersey, a man murdered an EMT because he was white. That's ridiculous, right? Why should that happen? Well, we had all of the BLM stuff, the Black Lives Matter, and then we had Kamala Harris, right? Encouraging that, getting people free, and then, encouraging more of this anti-white racism. It's crazy, right? But that's who these people are. They're pushing for war, right? While they destroy our economy, destroy the military, destroy our borders, destroy our currency, destroy our culture, our civilization, our children, everything, right? The Washington Post comes out and tells Americans to eat ants and crickets, right? They want people to live in pods. What's a pod? It's a shipping container. This is what they want for us. They want us to be their slaves. They want us to like this idea of work camps. In fact, they're now talking about cities and describing cities as open air prisons, open air concentration camps. Right? Well, that only works and that's only possible if they control everyone to the point where they cannot leave, they cannot travel. What do you think the central bank digital currencies do? They control us. They control our ability to travel, to have jobs, to buy food, to get the things we want. If they control businesses and corporations, they control what food ends up on the shelves. Right? They put fake meat in and people reject it. They're putting bugs in our stores and people are rejecting it. So they're killing the fertilizer industry. They're killing the farming industry. They're trying to stop farming, stop livestock. Right? They're doing all of this incrementally, piece by piece by piece by piece. It's not going to be one event. They've introduced the idea. They're pushing it. They're creating the situation. They're doing all of these things. Are you prepared? And at this point, right? Okay, if here's the start and here's the end, we're in the middle. Now we can allow them to keep pushing, well, to the end where we become their slaves, eating bugs, having nothing, and supposedly being happy, in fun camps. Or we can fight back and go back to where freedom and liberty is and tell them to shove it in their ass. Right? Unbelievable. Unbelievable as they push their corrupt money laundering system to enrich themselves. Oh, yeah, by the way, the Biden administration can't account for $20 billion of the aid money sent to Ukraine. They've been asked, where the hell did the money go? Why should we send another 37 to Ukraine if out of the supposed 80 billion, well, that's arms and cash, you can't account for 20 billion of it? That's a head scratcher, don't you think? All right, folks. We got a super chat donation. Jolene says, so who is it? What do we want to talk about? It is D-Orse with a $9.19, 99919, which is the 9x19 Parabellum. It's the 9mm, right? The most famous round for getting that round busting a cap in your ass. He says, I just got back from Rob Painless's place out in West Texas. I need to be moved down to Texas by next summer at all cost. I'll tell you what, Diorce, that's really cool. I'm glad you got down to West Texas. A lot of people like it there. A lot of people like, believe it or not, folks, yeah, there's a lot of conservatives in New Mexico, in the farming areas. A lot of people in Arizona, which is far more conservative than the recent Nintendo games would have you believe. But Texas, right, New Mexico, Arizona are all very conservative and very much American, as well as going through the, shall we say, Gulf states and the southern states just above the Gulf states, very much freedom-oriented. Anyways, Diorce, thank you for the awesome super chat donation, and then letting everyone else know, hey, here's another Prepared Mind Network person who wants to get the hell out of Dodge and get down south. I tell you, they're continuing to push their fun camps on us, folks. They're going to push their behavioral activism. Unbelievable what these people want for us, from us, etc. You know, what else do we have? What else do we have? This was important. This was really important, folks. There was a member of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, a member of the advisory panel who voted for the Jim Jones juice for the emergency use authorization. Guess what? This person, this top virologist, died suddenly from a brief unknown illness. Did you know that? Well, I say take a wild freaking guess at that one. Take a wild guess, right? Sponsored by the Jim Jones juice. It's incredible, folks. What continues to be an incredible story that is absolutely ignored. It truly is being ignored. I mean, seriously. How many people, the people that have sponsored it, politicians, news people, and they're going to continue to push that on us, folks, while pushing everything else that they want. Right? We're continuing to see this country get torn apart by the political leftists. We're continuing to see it. I'm scrolling right here, right? They pushed, what haven't I talked about? I have not talked about, I haven't talked about the climate crap. I haven't talked about the climate crap. What climate crap? You know, climate change, climate crisis. Well, they're pushing that as well. I mean, the anti-gun, the anti-freedom of speech, the anti-travel, the Jim Jones juice, the destruction of the military. Let's push more war. Let's sell more weapons. Let's control gas and energy. Right. I wanted to talk about this, folks. Did you know that the polar vortex may unleash an Arctic blast as far as the deep south in the United States? You bet, folks. Be afraid. Be very, very afraid. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be afraid, right? But they're trying to scare people. I mean, they've got little Gretchen, the climate Grinch, out there. She is screaming mad at people because they just don't give a shit, because they don't believe her. Now, a meteorologist says that, quote, a monster negative North Atlantic oscillation signal is showing a pattern that could reload the cold, right? Right, as if you know, they know what the hell's going to happen. I think they know. I mean, in a lot of cases. But when they say polar vortex, what is that? What else do we have? The polar vortex? Oh man, what else did they have? They had the Arctic bomb or the bomb cyclone was the next variation. And I see you shaking your head there, man. Thank you. The bomb cyclone's coming. They can't scare us enough with the weather. It's either hurricanes are going to kill us all, or the atmospheric river, or a bomb cyclone, or a polar vortex. They're continuing to try and tell us, right? But right now there's this North Atlantic oscillation is just going bonkers, and it's going to send a cold snap deep into America. Well, don't we get that every year during, aren't we supposed to get cold every year? It's called winter. But, it actually is very terrible, this whole winter thing, because people in Europe are not going to have the energy they need. They're not going to have it. They're not going to have enough energy. They're not going to have enough gas. They're not going to have enough electricity. They're being shut down. I don't know what to say. I mean, we're here every weekend, folks, and then all week long watching what these people are doing. And I think that the recommendation or the question, what can we do, John? What should we do? Start writing your congressman and telling him enough of this bullshit, right? Enough of these games with the weather control and the climate control and the carbon taxes. Enough of the crap and bullshit of destroying our energy freedom, our energy independence. It's just getting out of hand, right? Yeah, this idea that free speech is just not allowed, right? It's unbelievable, folks, how they push all this anger and hatred, right? Like this. How about this, right? The Catholic Church, or a Catholic church, has been vandalized once again. And for the second time in 6 months, it's got penises and balls, testicles spray painted on it. Well, this isn't down in some bad. It's not in Chicago, right? It's not in Portland or Seattle. This is up in Alaska. Up in Alaska, Alaska. They're that radical in Alaska, folks. These people are all over the place. These left-wing, anti-America, anti-freedom, anti-law and order lunatics who are also anti-church, anti-religion, anti-moral, right? This is who these people are, folks. They're not going to give up and go away, and we shouldn't either. We shouldn't give up on freedom. We shouldn't give up on liberty. We shouldn't give up on these and let these people push us around and tell us what to do, whether it's people on the street or it's people in your local government or people in D.C. We need to stand up, be aware, be awake, and fight back. Let's do this. Jolene, do we have someone who has something to say? And we do. It is Marilyn Myers. And she says, no real question tonight with her $9.99 super chat donation. She says, appreciate you digging deep into these issues. And thank you, Marilyn. And the deal is we really do dig deep into it. We get into the stories. We look into the characters who are involved. We look at the philosophies behind them, the political philosophies, the moral philosophies, and we want to know, what are these people really thinking? What's in their heads? Where are they coming from? Is there historical reference, right? Where are they pushing us to, right? Every time they say we want just a little bit more, right? Well, we want to come out of the closet. This is the LGBTQ crowd. It just started out with the gays. They want to be accepted by society. They don't want to be considered next. Okay, you can come out of the closet. You're gay, fine. They're like, okay, now we want to be accepted as normal. Oh, okay, we're supposed to not say that, you got some psychiatric condition. Like, that's right. And then they're like, well, and now we want to get married. We want you to have accept it. Okay, fine. Go ahead and get married all you want. Now we want it to be a legal marriage. So we have all kinds of benefits. Oh, okay, you want that. And then it was, well, now you have to accept this and accept that and accept the next thing and accept this and then that. And now we're to the point where they're like, you have to accept us wanting to have sex with children and claiming whatever gender we want. And that you can't criticize us or make fun of us. Nobody can question our morals and where we want to go. How far are they going to keep going, folks? There's no end to it, right? They want you to accept and then use the right pronouns they demand. If you criticize them, they want to call it hatred. There's no end to it, folks. There's absolutely no end to where they want to push us. Woo! Okay, Jolene, what do we got? Who wants to step on up? It is Johnny Freedom Seed with a $20 super chat donation. He says, hey, brother, hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Scary hearing more and more about the gun laws going up north in Canada. As always, Semper Fi. Semper Fi to you, Johnny Freedom Seed. I tell you what, I need a little sip just to wet my whistle and lubricate the joints. Oh, yeah, that's good. Woo! That'll put hair on your back. Anyways, yeah, Canada, folks. Down here in America, we look at Canada and we think they don't have any gun rights. Well, they've got a little bit, and they're always chipping away a little more, a little more, a little more, a little more. Canada, Canadians are very polite people, right? Well, they're known for their niceness and politeness, but I don't think so much anymore. When you politely take someone's rights, I don't consider that polite at all, right? When you politely run someone over with your car, when you politely use the police to trample an old lady with a horse, right? That's not polite at all. When you politely, right, lock people in their homes and politely force them to get, right, experimental drugs put in their body. When you politely say, we're going to close your bank account, we're going to politely take your car, your house, we're going to politely take your children away. It's not so polite anymore. Canada and Canadians, folks, they need to quit being polite. And I'll tell you what, Americans need to start standing up for themselves as well, right? Everyone who says, well, we're going to let people like the Prepared Mind Network, everyone there, they can go do the fighting for us. Well, I'm going to be busy defending myself and my rights when shit hits the fan really bad in my area, right? If you're in some other city or some other area where you're surrounded by left-wing lunatics, no one's going to be able to come and save you because they're going to be busy trying to protect themselves, right? People that bug out to their bunkers or bunker in where they're at, they're not going to be leaving home to go help others. They're going to be busy trying to protect themselves from the screaming hordes of zombies, lunatics, and leftists out there, right? God helps those who help themselves. So when it comes to us, me and you, we need to help ourselves by telling our politicians in D.C., our politicians at the state capitol, you better start respecting the rights of the people and observing the restrictions and rules set forth on government. Right? The government serves the people, or at least it's supposed to. We're going to have a whole lot of trouble. Up in Canada, they've got their hands full. That's where America is going to be if we give in to the least amount of gun control. As soon as they take one thing, they'll take two, then three, then four, then five. Right? But thankfully, the courts are saying again and again and repeating again and again that government doesn't have a right to restrict magazine capacity or restrict guns based on how they look or restrict guns at all, because shall not be infringed means shall not be infringed. History has shown us and demonstrated time and time again that any government that is interested in restricting the rights of the people, especially concerning their firearms, is a government that's interested in killing its own people. Because those countries that are most successful at taking away the weapons of the people become the most successful at exterminating, killing, murdering their own people. Nazi Germany took away the people's guns. Soviet Union, well, they took away as many as they could. Now, folks, they still had guns in Germany. They still had guns in Russia. When the Soviets took over, the people fought back, but they didn't have enough. Right? The more the people are armed and the more well-equipped the people are, the more capable they are of defending the country from both, shall we say, domestic and foreign, right, invaders. Our hands are full, right? Shit has hit the fan. Things are getting nasty, right? Now, of course, it's Christmas, right? It's Christmas time. I got this swing in there from the ceiling. It's Christmas time. But things are pretty nasty also. And I want to thank you guys for supporting this channel with your donations, right, through the super chat process. That's great. We need all the help we can get to stay live here, right? All the help we can get. And I want to thank you guys for it. In fact, we have another donation right now. Who do we have stepping up? We got William C. with a $5 super chat donation. He says, how much money do you think the Fed makes off of juicinated Social Security recipients? I'll tell you what. Juicinated Social Security recipients. I think that as people keel over from taking the Jim Jones juice, the federal government is saving millions and millions of dollars. I think that this is a game that they're playing and they're willing to play, right? I've had people tell me that they really feel that as senior citizens, they're being targeted, right? They're being targeted, especially when the government, the Joe Biden government, said, well, if you're collecting Social Security, you have to take it. If you work for the federal government, you have to take it. If you're a contractor who benefits from working with the federal government, you have to have you and all your employees take the Jim Jones juice. They're benefiting greatly, folks. They are getting rid of, now there's also this claim that the poorest amongst us are going to suffer the most heavily under the Jim Jones juice that is being used to kill off the poor and undesired class of people. I don't know who they're targeting, folks. I think they're targeting everybody. They're targeting the most foolhardy and gullible people out there. And again, I'm going to tell you, the odds of me having a heart attack, they exist, right? They're out there because, I'm 52. The odds get a lot greater if I take the Jim Jones juice, right? Having a stroke, I could have a stroke. I could keel over. I could do the kicking chicken, right? But the odds are much greater if I take the Jim Jones juice. Losing my mind, having neurological problems, having pulmonary, that is breathing issues, other diseases, cancer, all of my odds increase as I take Jim Jones juice and the boosters. So why would I do such a thing? Yet there are people out there who are believing every lie that comes out of the government's mouth and every lie that comes out of the media's mouth. Well, that's unfortunately, that's their decision and they're making those decisions, right? You and I, we're making our own decisions, right? And we have to, we need to make our own decisions for ourselves. Who's going to make the best decision for you? You or someone else? I think it's a valid question, right? Who makes the best decision for you? Someone who is proven to be a flip-flopping bullshit artist, right? Dr. Doom himself, using his own words on this show, we can show that he is he's full of shit, right? He's a hypocrite. He's a liar. Do you trust him? Well, if you trust him with your life and your health, I think you're taking an awful risk, right? I'm not willing to take that risk. Well, I tell you what, we are after the 2-hour mark here. I think we're out of super chat donations. I've come to almost the end of all my topics, and I want to bring up this last subject. If you guys want to talk about more things, I'll stay here as long as you want, as long as we've got questions coming in. But this was a big one, and I wanted to end the show on it. Folks, Antifa, that's right, the anti-fascists, the left-wing, radical, violent group that Joe Biden says is just an idea. Even though they have flags, they have masks, they have violent factions amongst them who show up and attack people. They communicate in social media, yet they're considered, well, they're not really a terrorist organization. Apparently, they're reportedly, remember, just an idea is out there reportedly planning terror attacks on Tesla dealerships. That's right. A group that doesn't exist is planning attacks. Well, how is this possible? They don't exist. Well, actually, they do, folks. There are real people. They do wear masks. They wear black, right? They're the black bloc. They're Antifa. And they're planning to attack Tesla dealerships now. And I think that we need to see this start so we can see how the anti-Tesla bullshit coming from leftist corporations, politicians, and media, how this leftist attack on Twitter, because Musk now owns it, Elon Musk now owns it, results in violent actions from leftist activists who are essentially the modern Hitler Youth and Hitler brown shirts. We need to see this start by Antifa so we can see the local, state, and then federal Democrats and law enforcement and mainstream media allow the violence to go unpunished, underreported, and even excused and encouraged. So let's bring it on. Let's see what Antifa wants to do, right? Because they are reportedly planning attacks. Are you prepared? Do you have food, water, shelter, clothing, medicine, and a means of self-defense? Because these attacks could spread in other ways. Or we could have other terror groups start attacking. I don't know when, I don't know where, and I don't know under what condition. I just happen to know that this is coming because we've seen it in the past. And we've seen totalitarian regimes in the past use violent youth groups to cause chaos and death and destruction so that the government has an excuse to assume more power and authority. It happened in China, it happened in Russia, and it happened in Germany. All socialist governments benefited, and over 100 million people died as a result of that political benefit that fascists and dictators and communists got. We got a couple more people want to include something. What is it we got, Jolene? We've got Bernard Shreve Jr. with a 556 super chat donation. He says, the story I get from the authorities is that environmental social governance, ESG, will be the score for fuel, power, and other commodities. That's right, the things you need to live, to work, to get around, right? The things you need in life. That's right. Right. That'll be part of your social credit score is are you buying things from ESG friendly, ESG approved sources? Well, you're buying a lot of diesel fuel, huh? You're buying a lot of gasoline. You're buying a lot of propane. Well, we don't like that. No. We want you to buy the more expensive solar power and the more expensive wind power. That's right. Green stuff. We don't want you buying so much of that fuel. We're going to give you a lower score, which is going to limit your ability to buy things. Or maybe, right, if you've got a lower ESG score, the cost of your fuel will go up. Who knows how they're going to play this out? Thank you, Bernard. I appreciate your input there. And of course, the 556 super chat donation. I like 556 is a great caliber, folks. That is the AR-15 caliber, by the way. And now we got Dior's stepping in with the Semper Fortis. Always strong. And it's a 458 super chat donation. And the 458, folks, is one hell of a caliber. One hell of a caliber. All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it as we check out after the 2-hour mark has gone on. And it is now time to say adieu. Good night. For those who want to have a sip, I'll say to you, cheers, Prost. As we sign off, it's just like mother's milk there. Woo! That'll clear the sinuses pretty good. Folks, chance favors the prepared mind. Share this video. Share it on the internet, text, email, whatever it takes. Get the message out to get prepared. They're bringing more SHTF on us, even though it's the holiday season. Godspeed, Semper Fi. And I'll be talking to you, 0 Dark 30.